everyone, welcome. I'm Anita and today we are meeting Harsha Atmakuri, a director of the most popular film on cruel dairy industry called as Maa Ka Doodh. A doctor turned documentarian who quit his job and embarked on an investigative journey across India to find out nation's massive dairy consumption and its beef exports. Through an extensive series of interviews, he uncovers the truth of dairy business and put forth a compelling case for substantial and ethical solutions to address the dairy disaster. So sir, I would like to ask you about you and your family background and your education.
Namaste and thank you very much for having me here. And I grew up in a very typical South Indian family in a city called Vijayawada, and all my childhood was there. And my mom is a Christian and my dad is a Hindu, and because of that I had a mixed experience as I grew up from childhood. With regards to animal rights, there is nothing that kind of thing was taught at my home. My dad used to feed cats and dogs, and my love for animals is limited to cats and dogs. Having said that, the other thing is I grew up eating all kinds of animal products, from eggs, chicken, goats, you name it, I might have eaten it. And this was about my childhood, and from study till the +2 standard or 12th standard I have studied in my hometown, but when it comes to medicine, because of some XYZ reasons, I ended up studying in China, of all the places, where the consumption of meat is one of the highest in the world. And during my 3rd year, I happened to visit a slaughterhouse in China actually, and there I saw how the animals are treated. And when I saw how the chicken was trying to run away from the butcher and how the person pulled her back and slaughtered in front of me, it was a very eye-opening and shocking revelation. And as soon as I went back to my hostel and I did a little bit of research, I saw how animals are treated in slaughterhouse. I saw a few videos, and soon I decided to become a vegetarian, and it was an overnight decision. And that was it. Like, beyond that, I haven't thought much about it. I used to have these very kind of arguments like like we are raising these animals for slaughter, so it's okay to kill and eat them until then. But when I saw in a first-hand experience, it was like it broke my beliefs. And beyond that, the dairy consumption in China was very insignificant. So I used to consume eggs at that point of time, but as soon as I returned India, and I stopped eggs. I never touched eggs, because vegetarian food is very scarce in China. It's very difficult to have vegetarian lifestyle in China, let alone vegan. So I don't know much about the cruelty in dairy industry, but as soon as I came back to India and I cleared my medical license exam and got my license to practice, I decided to take a year break and read more about philosophy. I read about both Indian and Western philosophy from various spiritual leaders and critics. And one of the biggest influences I have is Tolstoy, Swami Vivekananda, and Srila Prabhupada, and among others. And while reading their books, they especially for example Gandhi or Srila Prabhupada, they talk about the cruelty that happens in dairy. So I stopped consuming commercial dairy at that point of time, thinking that okay, commercial dairy is bad, maybe I can go on and consume what we call as ahimsa milk, or milk taken from well looked after cows and buffaloes in a dairy farm or a gaushala. So that's what I used to do for a certain period of time. And as a Krishna devotee, I used to visit Krishna temples, and even the temple authorities used to tell me, because I used to inquire wherever I go, I inquire that how the milk is taken, whether the animals are taken, looked after well or not. Because if I don't get clear answers, I would rather not consume it, even if it is prasad. For me, it is not prasadam. So this is the kind of mindset I had. And the temple authorities always assured me that the milk they get is from reputed gaushalas, and they do regular inspections and XYZ everything they do it. But one day in the same temple, from the back gate, I saw a huge truck entering, and when the gates opened, I saw the truck is full of commercial dairy packets. So I was baffled, I was shocked. Immediately I went to these authorities or the spiritual priests who I regularly communicate with, and I told them, like, you told me like you sell only ahimsa milk, why are you selling commercial dairy? And they did not had any answer, and all they ended up saying is, come to temple, chant mantras and go home. You don't worry about it, that is not your karma. Like these kind of answers I used to get. If I question even further, they used to mock me. So I was very confused, like why are the priests who are supposed to be showing guidance are mocking me when I ask certain questions. So that's when I realized that maybe they don't want to speak about it, and I realized that okay, there's no such thing as ahimsa milk. It's just a realization based on experiences and communication with all these people, and I decided to remove dairy products, everything from my diet. And one day when I was working at an office, my colleague offered a dairy based sweet, as I said in the film, and when I refused, she inquired if I was a vegan. And this is fun fact is that despite studying medicine, there is not a single occasion where we were taught about the vegan diet or plant-based diet. And this is the kind of medical education, at least back in those times when I used to study. So when I searched a little bit about vegan, I came to know that there are some animal rights activists in Mumbai alone who are doing some outreaches, and I got an invitation, like, why don't you come and do an outreach with us? And since it was a very close place from where I live, I decided to go and experience it. And that was my first outreach, and since then I became an activist, animal rights activist.
Very well answers, like these situations lead to you to become a vegan.
Yes.
Amazing. So how did you come up with the idea to make this film? Why you made this film?
So filmmaking is not at all my background. Like as I said, I studied medicine. So when I started doing outreaches every weekend, whenever I get time, I spend my time only to speak for animal rights. I go to the streets and I talk to people. Occasionally I used to do it alone on my own. I go with my laptop and I will go on the street and I'll talk to random people and say this is the things that are happening to animals. And during this time I got very tired of giving a same answer to everyone. I thought, let me work on a video so that I don't have to repeat every time. The video will explain and I can focus my time on something else. That's when I did my first video back in 2017, and at that point of time I don't even know how to hold a camera, but still I managed to do it, a little bit of guidance from YouTube. And that video became viral, and that gave me a confidence that I should work on more videos so that it will help for the animals. So that's how my filmmaking began. So initially I used to do YouTube and Facebook videos and all that, and it was a year later I decided to quit my job and I want to become full-time activist. So I took a 2 years break from my job. I started doing activism, and one thing is that I was not fully happy with the amount of work that I was doing. I always felt like I should do more. Then the idea of why not work on a film project, on a major film project, came into my mind. And when I thought about what topic should I choose, based on my experience of talking with people, it was always that every time, it is all over India, not just limited to Mumbai. When I travel to Delhi or Tamil Nadu or anywhere, the cruelty that happens to, let's say, chicken or goat or fish, it is openly admitted because the slaughter is happening in front of our eyes. But when it comes to cruelty in dairy, a lot of people have various kinds of questions. Like they say that these things doesn't happen in my village, and we only drink ahimsa milk, and these kind of questions. So I thought maybe they are saying true. Maybe this is like a city phenomenon, not happen at the village level, or maybe they have a different kind set of environment where they get their milk from. So I thought, like, why not let me research on this. So that became my thought process of this project, and that's how I initiated this film. Unfortunately, the more people I met, the more experience I got in this through this film. Unfortunately, the responses I get, those all are false responses.
So how did you tackle a subject that has so much of controversy and community attention attached to it, and present it accurately but simultaneously sensitively?
So tackling this kind of sensitive topic is both challenging and not challenging at the same time for me, because it is challenging when we think about the emotions of people, and it is not challenging when we think about the emotions of animals. And my journey into veganism is not just an ethical angle, it also involved a lot of spiritual angle, because I used to believe in truth, Satyam. Like we say, Satyamev Jayate. Because no one likes to be lied. Like if I lie to you, you will not feel happy that I lied. And that's the case with anyone. So because of that strong attachment towards finding the truth, I turned vegan. So I thought, like, if people don't like to be lied, let me share the truth, and the truth that can be shared in a very sensitive way without offending anyone. That is to sticking to the facts and sticking to animals alone. And I didn't want to involve any economic or religious or political angles interfere into the topic, and focus mainly on the animals, and also at the same time focus on environment and health issues as well. So for me, dealing this sensitive topic, the guiding point is what you said, the lighthouse was, sticking to the truth and facts and expressing them in a non-offensive way.
I know it's such a sensitive topic, I can say, where if we raise these points, then plenty of hands are going to be raised,
Irrespective of one's religion or caste or economical background and all, no one likes to be lied. So like our goal was let the facts make people raise awareness, and let that awareness make their informed choices, so that it can lead to a better life, not just for animals, for themselves and for environment and for our future generations as well.
Wow. So how did you come up with this film's title, Maa Ka Doodh?
Yes. Thought of a lot of names, like from the most cliched name like Holy Cow to many other names, but none of them gave me that emotional feel attachment to the film, because my message is about the issues that happens with cows and buffaloes from the angle of dairy consumption, and which indirectly is about motherhood, because only mothers give milk, and no female mammal will give milk unless she becomes a mother in the first place. So while we were traveling during the shoots, my colleague and friend Shrikant Iyer, who has helped me a lot with this filming, he said, we were discussing about names, we are brainstorming various kind of titles and all. It's going on for at least 2 months. And then on just one particular day while driving, he just said, how about Maa Ka Doodh?
Wow.
He said. And it was like an instant spot on, like, okay, that is the name we have to go. It gave me that emotional feel, like it gives the complete essence of the film put in 3 words. And it was a no U-turn time. So as soon as I heard, like, okay, that's it, that's the name we have to fix for the film.
The dairy industry obviously is not so happy with this movie. So what do you have to say about them?
I think the dairy industry most likely is not happy, is probably for 2 reasons. One is that the facts are out now. The second thing is they don't want to change their way of system, how they work. I think the simplest solution is, one is to accept the facts, second thing is move on. I think it is very foolish for the dairy industry to ignore the facts, especially from an economical angle, to ignore the facts and changing the trends of consumer behavior and sticking to the old ways. Instead, I would suggest that it is a very smart move if any dairy industry today that at least begins R&D on plant-based alternatives, because they have all the resources they need. And it will help the farmers as well, because when you buy, let's say, peanut milk or soy milk or rice milk or oats milk, it is going to help the farmers who are producing these plants, right? So at the end of the day, farmers are going to be get benefited from these industries.
So did you get support from your family and friends for making this movie?
From day one of this project, I kept it very private, and very few people know about it. Even my family, they are not informed that I am working on a project that is on dairy industry. At most, they have an idea that I am working on a documentary film related to animal rights, and they had no clue that it is going to be about a project that is going to be this big. Even when it comes to friends, and it's very handful of people know about it. At most 5 people I can think of right now who know about this project, because since it is a very sensitive topic, we felt that this should be kept it private and keep it confidential until all the facts are put together. Because looking it from one side, it gives one picture, and looking it from a bottom angle or different angle gives a different picture. And we wanted to give a whole picture, and to avoid any miscommunication or misunderstanding, we kept it confidential. Yes. So only until the film is released directly for free to watch on YouTube, people came to know about this film. Even my mom came to know about this after we released the film on YouTube.
So when did you realize that you need to do a film for the animals, like the things which pushed you to make this film?
So this came from a very, a logical reasoning, I would say. And let's take humans for example. For every 1,000 humans, you probably see 100 people actively speak for human issues, right? Out of 100 people, maybe 10 people go out on the streets and speak about human issues. But out of 10 people, how many go and speak for animals? In most cases, it is 0 actually. And now when it comes to, let's say, animal issues, let's say if government spends 1 lakh rupees, a significant portion of it goes into cats and dogs issues and wildlife issues. Not even 1% reaches to the level that helps like these farmed animals. Most of the funding goes into welfare campaigns and all. Even when it comes to animal rescues, people are more focused on cats and dog rescues, and there are certain communities who are focused on cow rescues. So when we think about these things as as it trickles down, out of a given population, barely 0.0001% speak for animals, especially farmed animals, and that is also a big number if it is true. So I thought I should speak for those victims who cannot speak for themselves, and out of those victims I should choose those ones that are ignored by everyone. So that's how I chose to speak for farmed animals. And out of farmed animals, in my experience, as I said, it's easy to explain about the cruelty that happens in egg industry or poultry or goats and all. Even in beef industry, it's very straightforward. But when it comes to dairy, it is very difficult to understand. So that's the reason why I chose this topic, and I mainly focus on farmed animals.
So how we should be taking care of the whole animal kingdom, not with just a particular animal, but the whole animal kingdom?
So yes, I have asked this question myself, and of course as animal rights activists, many people ask this question. In my experience, the best solution that we can think of is stop interfering in animal lives, stop breeding them for human use, stop commodifying them, stop using them for entertainment, stop using them for leather, wool, silk, fur. I think once we stop doing all these practices where we abuse animals and slaughter animals, the animals will take care of themselves. Because from a practical point, no one can take care of the world and world will take care of itself. But all we have to do is stop interfering with what happens in the world.
So, what should a person do, to become a vegan, and how they should take care of the vitamins, minerals, and calcium, which is mostly talked about a lot, and what one should do in order to get these vitamins and minerals and calcium, being on a plant-based diet?
First and simplest step is stop eating animal products and stop using animal products. By stop eating animal products, I mean like stop eating eggs, milk, dairy products, meat, fish, all these crustaceans like lobsters or crabs and all. So any kind of animal, stop consuming them or their byproducts or products, and stop using leather, wool, silk, fur that involves lot of animal cruelty. And if we go a step further, we can also avoid using products that are derived with animals. For example, there are certain farms that produce oil with the use of cows. The cows are tied and they are made to rotate around this barrel for entire day, so that the nuts and all these plants are crushed and oils are extracted. This is something we can avoid. For example, we can avoid palm oil that is coming from Indonesia, where forests are burned down so that they can raise palm crops, and we can extract palm oils, which goes into a lot of industries. Stop using cosmetics that involves animal products. For example, certain lipsticks have fish scales, certain creams have animal based fats. There are even certain creams that I have come across that use snake oil. They slaughter the snake, they boil the body parts. Once the oil comes out, they use that oil in these creams. The more we dig into it, the uglier it happens. Stop using leather bags, leather wallets. There are a lot of alternatives that are available. So the first thing anyone can think of doing is stop using animal products. And people think that they do not have the power to make the world change, but we already have the power when we choose to buy what we eat and what we do. So it's like a electoral system where when you buy something, let's say when you buy like chai for 10 rupees, you are voting, you are demanding that, you are creating an environment for such demand, so that the chai wala will ask the dairy farmer to produce more milk, and the dairy farmer will exploit the cows or buffaloes to produce more milk. So it's a chain. And when we stop at the consumer level, the chai wala will stop demanding milk from the dairy farmer. The dairy farmer will stop exploiting cows and buffaloes for more milk. So the power is already in our hands. It's just that we have to use it in a different way, in a smart way. So the simplest way is use the 10 rupees, buy some peanuts, make peanut milk at home. It's the cheapest way. You can make 1 liter of soy milk with just 7 rupees. Like 1 liter of cow milk or buffalo milk will come, I think it's around 60 rupees right now.
More than that,
yes.
The purest one.
Some farmers even exploit the ahimsa system. Like they say that we only sell A2 milk and all. They sell at a very premium price, like 200 and 300 rupees.
So it's a big blunder, I can say. Even though they are saying A2, even those A2 cows are going through the same torture, is it?
So it's all economics, simple economics, demand and supply. When the demand ends or changes to a different style or a different path, the supply will also have to make those changes, because this economy system doesn't survive on supply alone. It only thrives on demand. When the demand changes, the supply changes. So in addition to that, a lot of people ask for alternatives. The first thing I would say is no one requires alternatives. Like no one requires mock meats, or no one requires plant-based dairy products or plant-based dahi, cheese, butter. These are not essential. Only an accessory items that help us transition faster. A lot of people have cravings for cheese. A lot of people have told me like, I would like to go vegan, but I can't live without cheese. For them, these things are helpful in transitions. So at the end, like if you like these kind of plant-based alternatives, you can continue with those food items involved in your diet regularly, or you can stop. But these are, I would say, accessory. So the first thing if for anyone to go vegan is simply stop using animal products, whether in diet or in lifestyle.
Great, great. So I see that you have taken interviews of many activists, spiritual leaders, vegan people, doctors. So how did you manage to get their interviews, on this sensitive topic?
So when I began this project, honestly speaking, I had no contacts. I only have few contacts within Mumbai whom I can reach out to, and the only contact is my spiritual self, which I used to tell that God, I used to pray to God that God, if I'm doing is right, please help me with the connections. That's all I used to pray. And one thing led to another. I think it's God's grace. I would say. I met a lot of people. Like for example, I met one Gaurakshak, and it was all by accident. And when I met him, I took his interview. I asked for his interview, and he immediately agreed. And and despite this is after a lot of Gaurakshaks refusing to give an interview with me. So finally, when one Gauraksha has agreed to give interview based on just our communication alone, I think he was impressed, and he put me forward to so many people. And he introduced me to a lot of vegetarian restaurant owners and a lot of people. It's like a chain reaction, one thing led to another. And the more people I spoke, the more people have shown interest in what I was doing, and they themselves have volunteered to help in any way. Of course, they themselves are not practicing vegans, but they believed in the cause, that there is something to be spoken about, and they don't fully understand the issue at a large scale, but still they felt that something is important is happening, and they helped me with the connections, and that's how it happened. And speaking of big people like like Maneka Gandhi or Acharya Prashant and all, it's all I would say God's grace. Like when for example, Maneka Gandhi ji, despite being at such a high position, all I did was I have given a call to her office, and it was picked by herself.
Oh my God.
And I just explained her, ma'am, I'm working on this film, and is it okay if I take your interview? She just told me to write an email to me. So I immediately wrote an email, and within a day she herself replied, come to this office at 3 p.m. on this day. So immediately after the security check, she herself came and please call me once the camera and everything is set up. So as soon as we arranged everything, and she came and she gave the interview. And beyond that, we were about to leave, she kind of showed her entire garden in her premises, and she spoke a little bit about her personal life, how she lives, and she has 20 dogs at her place. These things are not at all expected, but it just happened. The more we communicate people, I think it's all a spiritual feel for me.
When you're on such divine path, the divine itself helps you a lot.
Yes.
It shows you the way, and you are being protected.
So that's how we met a lot of people, and every right person also that we met. It's not like we met some bad people and all. Like at every path we met the right people.
So we worship cow as a god and as a Gau Mata, but we do all kind of atrocious things towards her. So are we really following ahimsa? Are we really following non-violence? The way we are exploiting the cow as a god. So what is your thought on this?
So first thing, when we use the word about ahimsa, we need to understand from which angle. For example, Jainism view of ahimsa is complete absolute non-violence even to the cosmic level, whereas Hindu view of ahimsa is slightly different. And for example, Mahabharata itself is surrounding on a war. War is not non-violence. War is a violent thing. So a Hindu view of ahimsa is very different. So when we speak about ahimsa in general, that is one thing I observed common both in Hinduism and Jainism and even Buddhism or Sikhism, is that not harming those who are not attacking us, especially animals, because they live on their own space. I may not be the right person or the authority to speak about ahimsa, but at least in my limited capacity of understanding, the least I can understand is not harming those who are not harming us is the simplest thing we can do. And when we look into dairy farms, you know, the cows are tied all day. So even if we look at the religiously organized gaushalas, separating a mother and a child is a form of himsa too. You know, tying a cow or a buffalo all day is a form of himsa as well. So we have to think about these things at each and every step of consuming dairy. I think when there is absolute ahimsa, I think the absolute ahimsa for me in today's world, in the present way of living, in this commercialized and economic world, or in this modernized world, is to complete abstinence of milk products, because that's the only thing I can think of, you know, living in a ahimsa way, in non-harming these cows and buffaloes.
So, sir, how do you live your life, and what is your lifestyle, being a plant-based person or a vegan person? So, what all diet you follow?
So, my diet is very simple. In the morning I wake up, and most often I don't eat breakfast, but if I do, I eat like simple thing like idli or medu vada or upma, poha, this kind of simple breakfast. And in the afternoon and the evening, dinner times, I eat dal, roti, chawal, sabji, whatever that is available traditionally in India. It's all traditional Indian food. If I go to a restaurant also, all I do is I order, like let's say if I order a thali, I tell them to remove all the dairy products. I tell them don't give ghee, remove dahi, and I only pick these vegan products. These are like by default vegan. For example, dal, roti, chawal, sabji, all these are vegan. So my diet is very simple and barely consume any plant-based alternatives as well. I occasionally, sometimes when I have the cravings, I consume, like when I have craving for paneer, I consume like tofu. When I want to feel like eating dahi, I eat plant-based dahi. Either I make it myself, or if I feel lazy to make it myself, I order from the restaurant, some vegan places. That's it. It's not very complicated life. It's very simple. And,
wow.
and this is a very reasonable, economical as well. In fact, I am spending far less money on a vegan diet than when I was a vegetarian. Of course, vegetarian diet is cheaper than meat-based diet, but vegan diet is even more cheaper.
So, any message for the viewers who are watching us? Any message from your side, sir?
So, my only message to the viewers is it's a humble request to, if you consume dairy or animal products, any kind, even if it is honey, please take a look at the film, try to understand. I think it's our moral obligation to least understand what animals go through because of our lifestyle choices, whether it is dietary or general lifestyle, clothing, and see if these things are wrong. If you feel these things are wrong, please make appropriate changes. If you feel these things are right, maybe you can continue the way you are living. But if you have questions, please go ahead and ask questions. Go to visit a dairy farm and ask questions. Visit a slaughterhouse and observe how animals are treated. Go to a silk farm and see how silkworms are separated from silk. And I think based on these experiences, you will come to the truth. Of course, at the end of the day, no one likes to be lied, you know. It's all, everyone is trying to find the truth, and we all come to truth in one or different ways. And if we live according to the findings that we discover and we accept those facts as truth, I think everyone will go vegan.
Wow.
And I don't have to say people to go vegan. So in addition to that, we have released our film Maa Ka Doodh on YouTube for free to watch, and it's available in English and Hindi languages. And we are hoping that it will be dubbed in other languages in coming future. And it's available for free. And please watch it. And if you like the film, please share and spread the message. At the end of the day, it all helps animals and our health and our future generations as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harsha ji, for the wonderful, insight and thought-provoking and heartfelt conversation. I'm sure it's an eye-opener for many. It was for me. So, my dear friends, what do you think about and feel about this? Is it time for us to go plant-based and give freedom to all the animals and become the voice for the voiceless? Thank you so much for watching us.